tell them to behave. Y'all are fine. The one in the red dress, I think it's Valentine in the gray suit.
I'm wearing Girl Scout colors.
That's right. You played with them. Good evening. We'd like to call the Carroll County Board of Commissioners meeting for February 7th, 2017 at 6 p.m. to order. At this time, we're going to do roll call. Call on Miss Susan Mabry.
Chairman Marty Smith,
Here.
Vice Chairman Trent North,
Here.
Commissioner Vicki Anderson,
Here.
Commissioner Tommy Lee,
Here.
Commissioner Michelle Morgan,
Here.
Commissioner Lee Powers,
Here.
Commissioner George Chambers.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. At this time, item 3 is the invocation. We're going to call on Commissioner Trent North out of District 1, and followed by, we've got a special group with us now. Tonight, the Girl Scout Troop 17237 that are going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight. Looking forward to that.
Please join me, most precious and all-wise Father. We come at this time just to give you the honor, the praise, and the glory. Father, we thank you for the men and women that are up here. Continue to guide our thoughts and decisions. As always, we continue to pray for the men and women who fight for democracy abroad as well as at home. These prayers we ask in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen.
And 60 more.
And we do say thank you to the Girl Scout group for participating tonight. Welcome you anytime. Thank you. This time we'll go down to item number 5 on the agenda is the approval of tonight's agenda.
Make a
Mr.
motion to
Chairman,
approve.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the agenda with the addition of an item for consideration for repairs and improvement of amenities for John Tanner Park.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to amend the agenda. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you very much, Commissioner North. Item number 6 is approval of the minutes from the commission meeting minutes of January 3rd, 2017. You had in your package to review. Need a motion from the board.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you. At this time, item number 7, we're going to call on Warden Robert Jones to come forward for a special presentation.
Chairman and Commissioners, as commonplace as it may sound, it is an honor and a privilege to join you this evening as we collectively recognize one of Carroll County's finest law enforcement officers. I'm humbled by the opportunity to share my thoughts, as well as our shared appreciation and admiration for tonight's recipient. Jesus told us in Matthew 25:36, the king will accept into the kingdom those who visited thee in prison. He will tell those who didn't visit thee in prison to depart from him. There is no doubt how we treat the marginalized and the powerless is what matters to our God. And prisoners were seen as the least of these among those in society. Sergeant Fulford set a standard on how to interact and motivate those that society has cast to the wayside. I believe that this scripture should guide us as law enforcement officers and correctional officers in our day-to-day interaction with our fellow man. As Sergeant Fulford accepts this award, I would like all of us to reflect on the least of these and how important it is for us to make their lives better than when we received them from a world that's so unforgiving. This plaque only symbolizes the great accomplishments that Sergeant Fulford has received in our noblest of professions. It is merely a token of the collective enthusiasm for the dedication and self-sacrifice and a desire he has shown to make our community an ideal place which to live and work. Please do not view this evening's recognition too cheaply. Understand that we acknowledge that what you have done means so much more than we can express through a simple plaque. As I reflect on a law enforcement career that spanned 19 years and included services at local, state, and federal levels, I consider it a natural question whether I or we have ever made a difference in our day-to-day interaction with the least of these. To answer that question, I think of the least of these that we have cared for and realize that we have saved lives through our compassion for our fellow man. I think of the cycles of incarceration that we've broken by restoring dignity and self-worth to these men. Sergeant Fulford, you are to be commended, rightfully honored, and thanks for your efforts. I pray that my words have not poorly described the adequate fashion of our amazement at the lives that you have impacted while working at the Carroll County Correctional Institution. Chairman and Commissioners, the officer standing before you has demonstrated professionalism under the most trying circumstances, embodied patience when others long since would have walked away, demonstrated humanity towards people some might say didn't deserve it, shown dedication to duty as the clock ticked long past the end of his shift and his family members waited for his safe return. Therefore, I am pleased to recognize Sergeant Fulford as the best of the best, who has stood and volunteered for some of the most arduous tasks. The salute to our finest officer constitutes the best Carroll County Correctional Institution has to offer. In conclusion, Abraham Lincoln said in his first inaugural address, "Let us all appeal now to the better angels of our nature." Lincoln asked all of us to do the right thing, even in the face of adversity, to step forward where others decline to tread. Ladies and gentlemen, I tell you, Sergeant Fulford has appealed to the better angels of his nature, and we are a better community because of it. On behalf of the Carroll County Correctional Institution in the state of Georgia, I wish to extend my heartfelt congratulations to Sergeant Fulford and countless others like him whose day-to-day efforts may be somewhat more mundane, yet less noble, for their continuing efforts to keep our communities safe. I also offer my sincere gratitude to the Carroll County Board of Commissioners for their long ongoing efforts to recognize and truly motivate law enforcement personnel from across our county. I'd like to present the 2016 Carroll County Correctional Institution Officer of the Year. You want to say something to him?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Warden Jones. I'd like to say thank you, Carroll County.
Thank you.
You know, when you walked down, I didn't know you were receiving the award, and I want to say congratulations, but I really want to say, have we always had those mustard green uniforms? That should make people want to behave. I'm sorry. It's got
Absolutely. Proud of you, Mr. Fulford. Thank you.
Congratulations. Just because it's your birthday.
At this time, there were no public comments signed up. We'll go straight into item number 9, which is the financial session. We're going to call on Finance Director Lehman Stevens to give us an update for November, December, and any questions you may have.
As of December the 16th, our revenues for the 6 months was $30,531,000. This is 60.62% of the budget. That's an increase over the prior 6 months of $727,000. Expenditures for the 6 months ended in December were $23,789, and that's 47% of the budgeted expenditures, and that's a positive variance of $244,000 over the prior year. At December 31st, 2016, the general fund balance was $15,799,000, an increase of $1.5 million over December 15. Our general fund operating cash on December 31st was $15,138,519, and of course, this is the high point of the year. All the tax, or most of the tax revenues have been recognized, and this is an increase over December 15 of $1.8 million.
Open the floor. Any questions for Lehman from the board? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 9.2 on the agenda under financial session. This is the amended item number. We're going to call on Parks Director Ben Skipper.
For the items that Commissioner North asked about, the paddle boat replacement, $24,734, repairs to the putt-putt golf course. What we had talked about, we would, at the work session, we'd give a 10-year carpet option and a 4-year carpet option. And obviously, we would like the 10-year option, seeing how it's within $1,200 of the 4-year option, which would be a 10-year warranty of $4,621. Obviously, we need to replace the golf clubs and golf balls, $602. And then the lake management service would go to, per the recommendations of Southeastern Ponds that came out and did a lake study 2 years ago. And one of the more important things would be to replace, to place in the lake grass-eating carp, because last year we had to get a chemical to spray the algae that is growing kind of like in aquariums. Someone's dumped in a creek, and we had an aquarium bloom in the park. And in the park we have 2 triathlon events every year where they swim the lake, so we had to get that out, or we could have come out looking like a swamp man, you know, there at the, we didn't want that to happen. So, but all of this total is $38,526.
I make a motion to approve $38,526 out of the 2013 SPLOST.
Second. We have a motion and a second. We'll open the floor for any discussion. Seeing none from the board, all those in favor? All those opposed?
We at the parks want to thank the commissioners for their continued support.
Thank you, Mr. Skipper. Next, we'll move into the item number 10, into the business session. Item 10.1, we'll call on County Attorney Stacy Blackman. That's a resolution of the Board of Tax Assessors.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we have before you a resolution to increase the size of the Board of Tax Assessors. It's currently 3 members to 5 members, which is allowed by statute. This is to provide continuity and help with administrative.
Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you very much. Now we'll call on Mr. Artegas New, our zoning administrator. We'll be moving into item number 11 on the agenda, zoning session. Thank you, Art.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, members of the board. Just very briefly before I get into the items for tonight, I'll read the items for consideration. Number 1, whether the zoning proposal will permit a use that is suitable in view of the use and development of adjacent and nearby property. Whether the zoning proposal will adversely affect the existing use or usability of adjacent or nearby property. Whether the property to be affected by the zoning proposal has a reasonable economic use as currently zoned. Whether the zoning proposal will result in a use which will or could cause an excessive or burdensome use of existing streets, transportation facilities, utilities, or schools. Whether the zoning proposal is in conformity with the policy and intent of the land use plan, and whether there are other existing or changing conditions affecting the use and development of the property which give supporting grounds for either approval or disapproval of the zoning proposal. With that, Mr. Chairman, the first item we have for your consideration is at 178 Constellation Church Road. This is a request for a secondary detached residence, Mr. Chairman, and also a variance on the new home to 896 square feet. Mr. Chairman, this request has a unanimous recommendation of approval from the Planning Commission.
Thank you. Our policies and procedures for the governing of the conduct of the zoning hearings. The applicant will come forward as Art calls you, state your name and address. You'll have 10 minutes to present data and evidence. At that time, those of anybody opposed to the zoning or opposition will also have 10 minutes for rebuttal. Both sides at that time will have 5 minutes to refute anything. So at this time,
Good evening. Terry and Keith Zimmerman, 178 Constellation Church Road, Whitesburg, Georgia. The addition is for her elderly mother, who is moving forward with needing help. So that's what we're gonna do, build our little cottage beside the place.
We would have it attached, but there's just no way.
Yeah.
Everything's on the other side.
anyone here in opposition of the request of 11.1 for the conditional use at 178 Constellation? We're gonna cut it short if not. Anyone in opposition for 11.1? Seeing none, we'll look for a recommendation from the board.
I make a motion to approve.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you, Mr. Zimmerman.
Thank you. Good night.
Mr. Chairman, the next item for consideration is a rezoning request from R1 to commercial. This is located off Strickland Chapel Road. Mr. Chairman, this request has a recommendation of approval from the staff. It also has a unanimous recommendation of approval from the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Art.
Yes, sir.
Call on the applicants.
Yes, I'm Lewis Thomas. I live on 648 Strickland Chapel Road, and I've got 21 acres, and I'd like to zone 1 acre for commercial to build a new shop on.
We'll go ahead and ask, is there anyone here in opposition? Anyone here in opposition of item 11.2 under zoning session for conditional use? Seeing none, look for a recommendation from the board.
I make a motion to rezone the property from R1 to commercial.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Now open the floor for discussion. Seeing none for the board. All those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, next item for consideration is at 852 Liberty Church Road. This is a request for a secondary detached home on 2.12 acres more or less. Mr. Chairman, this request has a recommendation of approval from the Planning Commission. There was a split vote. There were 4 votes in favor and 1 abstention.
Thank you, Art.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Kate. And what we're trying to do is get us a little house put down behind ours so our son and daughter-in-law and 2-year-old granddaughter can move in our house to help us out. I have diabetes, I hit the floor, he's had surgery, he can't pick me up no more. I have 3 heart valves leaking, I'm bleeding out, and they can't figure out where. My husband
It's understandable, absolutely.
And I don't understand these people trying to keep us from doing it.
And that's okay, we'll take one step at a time. Bear with us right there. Is anyone else here representing, wanting this zoning? Anybody else with your family here to represent, saying they want it? Just you two? Okay, we have not used the allotted 10 minutes, so now we're gonna ask for opposition. Is there anyone here tonight under item 11.3 for a conditional use at 852 Liberty Church Road that is in opposition? We'll ask again, item 11.3, conditional use for Liberty Church Road. Is there anyone here in opposition? Seeing none, now we'll ask for a recommendation from the board.
I make a recommendation that we approve.
Second. We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you very much, Ms. Murphy.
And we're back. Mr. Chairman, the next item we have for your consideration is a conditional use and variance request to divide 1 acre with an existing home from a 4-acre parcel. This is at 140 Duffy Road. Mr. Chairman and members of the board, this request has a unanimous recommendation of approval from the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Art.
Hello, I'm Adam Duffy, and I'm requesting to buy 3 acres of the 4 from Miss Stacy Morris.
Okay. Anyone else here a proponent or for this? Any other family? Seeing none, we have not used the 10 minutes expired. We'll ask, is there anyone for item 11.4, requesting a conditional use at 140 Duffy Road? Anyone here in opposition? Asking a second, any opposition to conditional use at 140 Duffy Road, item 11.4? Seeing none, we'll look for a motion from the board.
Can I ask one question? What, as I read this, Adam, what you want to do is split this off with there's an existing home on it already?
Yes, sir.
And then you want to put that, the rest of it is going with Miss Morris's cousin's property? Is that what I'm understanding, or?
I own the property.
Okay.
And I'm selling 3 out of the 4 acres and keeping 1 acre that the mobile home's on. And he's
Okay,
buying
I just had on here to combine the remainder with your cousin's property.
Yeah, he owns adjacent properties.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to be clear on what I was after. Thank you, ma'am.
Look for a motion from the board.
Motion approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Now, any discussion or further discussion from the
Mr.
board?
Chairman, when I read the packet, I was in favor of it, till I saw a jacket. Just teasing.
I hope
Commissioner,
that's
you're
not
out of
the hold-
order.
If that's the only holdup you've got, we'll be okay.
Excuse me, Mr. North, but as principal, you help my children who are now at Georgia.
Oh.
Commissioner, you are out of order.
Calling point of order. We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any further discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you.
Go Dogs.
Mr. Chairman, the next item we have is a request at 3060 Highway 166 West for Mr. William Knott. This is a request for a secondary detached home. Mr. Chairman, this request has a unanimous recommendation of approval from the Planning Commission.
William
Not 895 Highway 113, Carrollton, Georgia. I'm wanting this conditional permit where I can put another house on this tract of land. When I bought this property, it had 3 old chicken houses and an old mobile home on it. I've done away with all that. I put in one house. I like to put another house on the property.
All righty, we've not used it a lot of time again. We'll ask item 11.5, conditional use at 3060 Highway 166 West for Mr. Knott. Is there anyone here in opposition? Ask a second time for item 11.5, any opposition to the request? Seeing none, we'll look for a motion from the board.
I make the motion to accept William Knott's request for a conditional use permit for a secondary detached home on the property of 3060 Highway 166 West.
Second.
Motion and second. Now, any discussion, questions from the board? Seeing none. All those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you,
Thank you
Mr.
very
Knott.
much.
Mr. Chairman, the last item we have is at 395 Dot Road. This is a request for a variance and conditional use to divide a 5.33 acre parcel into 2 parcels. Mr. Chairman, this request has a unanimous recommendation of approval from the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Art.
Thank you.
I'm Terry Daniel. I live at 395 Dot Road, Bowden, and we're just wanting to separate my land where my son-in-law and my daughter-in-law can build a house back in behind me.
All righty, we'll ask on item 11.6, conditional use for 395 Dot Road. Is there anyone here in opposition of the request? We'll ask a second. Any opposition to the request for conditional use, item 11.6? Seeing none, we'll take a recommendation from the board.
Motion approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second from the board. Now, any discussion or questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? All those opposed?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
A motion and a second. No, there's no discussion. All those in favor?